Hey, I'm going to share with you Module 6, Engaging Tasks. There's three real driving points here. Driving. One of the points about driving that I'm going to kind of focus all my examples off of. And I'm going to have to speed through my examples here so I don't talk for an hour. Apologize. But I'll make sure the slide deck is available so you can click on all these links that I click on. So here's what we're looking at. We're trying to take tasks from just students doing the work, right? Get a worksheet, do the work, complete it, turn it in, repeat, rinse, repeat, right? To actually driving the work. So what questions can you ask? How would you like to show your understanding? Those types of things, right? And you start these small and give them a little bit of option, and then you grow. And then the other two things are about how do you decide which tool to use. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. But for the most part, I'm going to give you examples on engaging tasks and what I think is more engaging than just a PDF worksheet. All right, so we're trying to take kids from this behavioral engagement, which is kind of like how I knew I was a good student, right? Was I went to class, I participated, I followed rules, I studied, and I completed assignments. Boom, I was a good student. And now it's like, well, actually, we want kids to be curious. We want kids to think about their own learning. We want kids to be able to decide whether or not they understand something, right? We don't want just the teacher to say, yes, you got it, or no, you didn't, right? So, of course, behavioral engagement is crazy important because if they can't do those things, it's hard to move them into other realms. But hopefully, if the task is interesting enough, we can get behavioral engagement while also tackling some of this cognitive and emotional engagement. Again, I'm not going to read the whole slide to you, just for the sake of your sanity, right? But you can go back and look at that. So this idea of driving. So I've got three real practical things here. Some examples on the right, which I'll probably go into more. Set goals. Set goals as students, set goals as teachers, set goals for what you want the instruction to look like, set goals for what you want the assessment to look like, and then try to make those goals happen, right? Allow kids to set goals. Hey, what's something you really want to do in the next month? And just see what they say, right? Start small. I used to always ask my kids to come up with three goals: an end of year goal, end of high school goal. I was a high school math teacher, and lifetime goal. And I'd always share them with them at the end of the year, and they'd always laugh at what they wrote. Of course, some people are just going to write honor student, graduate from college. Okay, well, let's make that happen, right? You got to make sure all the work gets done, and you ask good questions if you don't understand. We want kids to want feedback, which is really tough. A lot of times the feedback is just so you understand what the grade is, right? And it's not a conversation. So opening up a channel of conversation for feedback is really important. So you have to frame this as, hey, I'm giving you something to think about. Now, I want you to think about it, respond to me, and then we're going to start having a conversation about it. Of course, on every assignment they ever do, that's tough, right? But maybe we can start curating conversation about their work. And then we really want students to be able to self-assess. So we want students to know where they are in the course, what they understand, what they don't understand, if they feel great about it, if they feel horrible about it. Anything it can go from really basic to really advanced, right? Just make sure the student is driving that work. All right, so here's an example of what I'm talking about. This is a quick tracking sheet that I created with another teacher. And in the most basic sense of the word, just ignore columns C through Q. Students could just have their name, and they are responsible for putting a thumbs up, thumbs down. And we can control this. We actually have this controlled where LeBron and the teacher are the only two people that can edit row 2. Nobody else can. LeBron can't edit anything else. Anthony Davis can edit row 3, but nobody else can except for the teacher, right? So we know if this switched, Anthony Davis did it. All right, so that's really powerful. Just to give the kids the responsibility of saying, I'm good, I'm bad, right? It's no different than having a green cup, a yellow cup, and a red cup in class, except for the fact that it's online. And then we also have this option where we can say, hey, for this lesson here, what did you decide to work on? Did you work on practice? Did you take the notes? Maybe you did the error analysis, right? And now real quickly as a teacher, I can see, hey, this is what they did, but they're feeling bad about it. So we need to go in and look at it. And just with a couple Google Sheets tricks with data validation, conditional formatting, we can set it up so only the student can edit their own work. Pretty cool. This slide's super important to me, even though it's not an actual example. It's just when you're thinking about the tasks and all the examples I'm about to give you, just think about the actual task that you're doing. So Google Sheets made the most sense to me because of all the different analysis I could do on that Google Sheet, and all the different formatting I could use. For that last example, if I did a tracking sheet with Google Docs or with a slideshow, it would be harder for me to get all that information onto one page. So that's why I use Google Sheets, right? So just think about, what is the task I want to be doing? If I want kids to respond with video, okay, well, Screencastify or Flipgrid could be really great. If I want all the videos in one spot where kids could respond and watch each other's videos, probably Flipgrid. But if I'm just looking for a kid's video and they just need to submit it to me, maybe upload it to Google Classroom, they could use Screencastify. There's no harm in that, right? And maybe they're more comfortable with that tool as well. So think about what tools do they already know, what tools are in their toolbox, and what makes the most sense for the task. This is a crazy long checklist, but again, something maybe that you check out in a little bit or after this video. But just remember that when you're trying to pick out a tool, it's supposed to make student learning better, more efficient, right? They're supposed to be more creative. They're supposed to be able to have deeper understanding. It's not supposed to be so difficult to use the tool or to jump through the 19 things that you're asking them to do that they don't really understand the content. They just barely got through the technology, right? So make it easy for them. Make it a Pear Deck with audio instructions so they can hear you, and they can use Immersive Reader if they need to, right? There's just so many tools out there. Get comfortable with the tool. Think about all the different things you can use with that tool, and then make your decision on what you want to use. Okay, here's some more examples of what I think is more engaging than a worksheet, right? Student choice. I think we all probably know about student choice, and I think sometimes student choice boards have like 5,000 options and bells and whistles and hidden things to click on. And I'm a big fan of student choice, and I'm also a big fan of making it super easy for the kid. This is a tic-tac-toe board. Make a tic-tac-toe, make a line, right? That's all we're asking you to do. So if you pick number 2, you got to pick number 8. Couldn't be too much easier than that. So really I can assign if you're going to do number 2, I also want you to do number 8. So in my mind as a teacher, I can be planning that out. As a kid, though, I get to pick what I want to do. I think that moves kids a lot. Like, hey, you have to do these 20 problems, or hey, you can do any of these things. A lot of times kids like to be able to pick what they want to do, right? And I like it how simple it is. So credit to Casey Bell. If you want, there's a template right here. You can click on that once you have the slides. Jamboard. I'm a huge fan of Jamboard, especially because it's a Google app, so it works really well with Classroom. It works really well with Google Drive sharing. It just works just like anything else, right? It's simple. I like the menu bar is simple. There's not 5 million things for the kids to do. There's really only a couple. And then again, think about the tool and the tasks that you want to do, and then create the lesson. So do you want it so that one question where everyone answers? So like my example of which one doesn't belong, I would want everybody to just be putting Post-it notes all over this thing, my whole class, beginning of class. Yeah, it'd be a little chaotic, and maybe I have them put their name at the top of their Post-it note on this, and maybe I wouldn't, right? But that would be how I'd frame this. I could also do it where I create small groups. I put the names on each slide. So let me jump over to my Jamboard here. So right now I only have one, right? And I just have kids create sticky notes. Boom, put them up. I'd let everybody edit this, and then we'd talk about it. But maybe it makes more sense to have some small group conversation, right? So maybe I make 4 or 5 of these, and then I just put a little text box in, and I put in names, right? So LeBron's on this one, Anthony's on this one, right? And then they know to go to this slide and edit this one. And then alternatively, I could also make a slide for every kid in one Jamboard and have them go to the slide. Of course, you could also just make a copy for each kid in Google Classroom and only have one slide, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can assign a Jamboard, and it just kind of depends on what you're trying to do. If you have a review assignment and you want kids to answer all the questions, assign a question to each kid and have them post their solution on the Jamboard, right? And then we could kind of, you didn't even have to make it so that kids know who was assigned to what. And then we can kind of critique and make sure we all have the same answers for a review. Another way to do that, right? I love the idea of using social media in the classroom, but there are just so many privacy concerns and security issues with it. So these templates are a really nice workaround. Credit to Matt Miller at Ditch That Textbook. Let me show you this Instagram story one. So my vision on this is I want kids to come up with the images of something, right? And normally I'd have them like put it on a Google Drawing or a Google Slide, or I'd have them make a collage back in my day of school, right? And you'd have hopefully had a color printer at home. Well, why don't we just have them make an Instagram story to try to tell the story of some event or to try to explain some example, right? So I think that's a really cool way. Of course, it's a little bit cheesy. You have to sell it as a teacher, but I still think it's pretty cool. And you don't have to worry about privacy concerns. We don't want kids creating social media accounts to do schoolwork. Nope. Mrs. Park has a really cool breakout room idea. So breakout rooms now within Google Meet, right? You don't need to add an extension. You don't need to MacGyver your way through it. You just click on activities, click on breakout rooms, and you set them up. And most times we think about breakout rooms as putting kids in small groups so they can talk about something, right? Bring them back as the whole group. I love this workroom idea. So she says there's a teacher help room if you need my help. There's a talking group room. There's a quiet group room. And then there's a room by yourself if you'd like. But we're all going to be in here together. So she's monitoring all of those breakout rooms, going in and out of all of them, right? If there's teacher help room, she might be in that one more than others, but she's still making sure to have an eye on all of the rooms. And still giving the kids the environment that works best for them. So I think that's really cool. You're almost curating environments for students to do the work. So now it's not even about the task, but it's about the environment, which can be really tough when you're at home or, in these blended learning or remote learning days. Quick example. You can send kids a blue link, or you can create it in some type of program for a video. Of course, not every video maybe warrants this, but I love Flipgrid for this kind of thing. I can just put it in my media. I can have them tell me 3 things they learned, or I can have them check out. I could even put like check out timestamp 1020 and see what you see and tell me what you think, right? I can be super specific. This video is just kind of a hook to get them started to think about odd numbers. So it's really not anything like that. I'm not going to assess them on this video, right? But I still want them to watch it and maybe find something interesting about it. I found that doing things like this made math a lot more interesting for kids than me just saying, all right, here we go, talk about odd numbers. They didn't really love that. But again, I picked the tool based on what I wanted the task to be, right? I wanted the task to be pretty low entry. I wanted it to be pretty formative. I didn't use Edpuzzle because I wasn't too worried about everybody watching every second of the video. I didn't just post the link because then there's no accountability at all. So, you just have to be strategic in what you want. Another quick idea from my experience that works pretty well is give them something to look at and tell them to make up questions and then answer those questions for the day. Of course, you need some backup questions as a teacher in case your kids don't come up with the questions that you really wanted to guide the instruction towards. But usually they do. They usually come up with questions pretty close to what I was looking for. So silly example with this graph about football, but we could still have some pretty amazing conversations about it. And then your last one, give kids analog tasks to then submit digitally. So this is a culinary class. First example, they were on a live call, but they had to go find something in their house. That's always fun, right? My daughter's in kindergarten. She had to do that in one of her calls, and she was losing her mind. She was loving it. She thought it was so awesome. So I always think that's really cool. Of course, it's not always feasible, and if the kid doesn't want to turn the camera on or things like that, we need to be respectful of that, but still pretty cool. The middle task is them just doing the learning, right? So just taking pictures of them cooking. I love the family photo bombing. That's so awesome to me. And then the last one is the feedback from others. So I think of this as like explain a concept to your parents that they maybe don't know, right? Which there's a lot of those in school that we just don't remember as parents. But this was a taste test. So you had to film the taste test of whoever you were giving the taste test to, family member, friend, whatever. And then they had to give you feedback on it. And then you submitted that. I mean, these are just really creative ideas, I think, to take the learning and make it more fun than just saying, here's the recipe, go do it, and then create this one-page reflection, 3 paragraphs, cite your sources, right? Of course, there's a place for all of that as well, but this maybe is a more engaging task. So I hope you learned one thing you hadn't seen before, and best of luck to you.